Hey, it's Marek. It's good to be back. I was away for a few weeks. I stopped recording podcasts. I stopped writing newsletters for a few weeks. In fact, just over 4 weeks, if I remember correctly. There was a very good reason for it. In fact, a very sad reason for it. I lost my dad, and I had to find a way of dealing with it. And for me, it was going offline, disconnecting from everything, spending time with family, doing things that matter. Not that this podcast doesn't matter. It's very important to me as well, but I'm sure you understand the priorities here. The good news is I'm back, and I'm happy to share a newsletter that I wrote a couple of days ago. A way of coming back online for me, a way of sharing just a tiny piece of what I was going through. That piece that had a link to algorithms, to the AI. So thanks for your patience. Thanks for your waiting. Thanks to those of you who reached out to see what was happening. I really appreciate all that. The most recent podcast is called Unreasonable Moments: Why Better AI Gets Worse at Some Conversations. So I started with pretty much the same that I just did with the podcast. Some of you noticed I went quiet for several weeks. Unusual, given the weekly cadence. I finally managed to get to a very, very consistent weekly routine of writing newsletters and then releasing podcasts based on those newsletters. Thank you to those who reached out. There was a reason I hit the pause button. A couple of days after the previous episode, my dad died. He lived a long life, but had been frail recently. In a way, I knew that the day would come. Still, I wasn't ready. Some of you might have read about my dad. I did write a newsletter post about 3.5 years ago. The post was called Intrusion Detected, in which I shared a story of my dad, how a neighbor saved him from deportation to Siberia. My dad was probably about 2 years old, if not younger, around that time. Later in his life, he became a pharmacist, and since about 1990, that was back in Poland, he had his own drugstore. One day, when I was still a primary school student, he let me bring in my Atari, the 8-bit computer, because I offered to write a program that would capture transactions, sales, a digital ledger, if you will, when no such software existed for small businesses. So the whole idea was for my dad to be able to enter every transaction, every sales, and then get a summary of that at the end of the day, something that he could, again, move to a paper ledger every few days or every couple of weeks, I guess. Now, there was a problem. I was young. I knew how to write a program like that, but only bits of it. I had absolutely no idea how to write data to a cassette tape. Yes, I had an 8-bit computer with a cassette tape recorder, and I had no idea how to write data to a cassette tape. I still have no idea how to do it. So this was a ledger for people who didn't mind losing everything at day's end and then having to re-enter it from scratch each morning. So I guess you know where the story goes. My dad liked the software on the first day. The following day in the morning, when he realized what was happening, that's when I lost my first user. That's when I lost my first customer. Now, I keep life and work separate. Some colleagues will learn about my my loss from this podcast. Some learned about my loss from the newsletter post. Some of you might have seen me recently on stage, in a business ideation session, perhaps at a dinner, and you had no idea. And I realized that's it is how I deal with grief. I share it with very, very few people. And I went digitally quiet because that's what I needed. I flew home to Poland. I spent time with my mom and the rest of my family, and I focused on things that had nothing to do with social media or newsletters. In those first days, I had a few chat with AI chatbots, and I didn't like them. Maybe because I know too well what's happening behind the scenes. I was trying to use them to help process my grief. I did ask Claude if I should push through and keep writing. I was genuinely asking myself whether, I should maintain my routine, whether this is a good thing to do or not. But you know what? I kept staring at the scratchpad, that part where Claude says what it's planning to do. It's reasoning about the response. It does reason there before answering. And that's when I saw the irony. I was looking for an answer from the heart, not a reasoned, calculated response. And on a screen here, I have a screenshot of that. And Claude has this thought process, and it says, this is a deeply... Oh, wait, I should probably be using the robo voice. Let me figure out whether I could do it right now. Let me just see. Where is it? Where's my robo voice? Here we go. I have a small robot. So let's do it.
Thought process. This is a deeply personal matter. Marek is experiencing genuine conflict about whether continuing his work rhythm during grief is appropriate. He's questioning his own response to loss. I need to 1. Validate that there's no right way to grieve. 2. Address his specific guilt about writing about algorithms when his father just died. 3. Help him understand that maintaining rhythm is a form of processing grief for some people. 4. Be direct and honest, not platitude.
You see the point, right? Claude in Scratchpad was reasoning how to respond to my emotional questions. The conversation obviously didn't last long. Look, I admire these systems. Technically, I'm mind blown, but some conversations cannot be delegated to a machine, no matter how smart or reasonable it is. Now, looking back, I was engaging a reasoning engine in what I would call an unreasonable moment. So, an unreasonable moment is a time when being present matters more than being right. It took me a long time to understand what it really means. Took this very, very traumatic event in my life for me to understand it. Those unreasonable moments are moments when you need to be heard, not given a solution, when you need to share joy, not analyze it, when you need to connect and not build a network. These are moments where the experience matters more than the outcome. The better AI gets at reasoning, the worse it becomes at unreasonable moments, because the reasoning itself is not the right response. It's like someone taking notes at a funeral or optimizing wedding vows. Technically fine, but it's also completely missing the point. And I thought about Eliza. It was an ancient chatbot from the 60s, way before I was born, that just mirrored your words back. And back in, I think, 90s, sort of mid-90s, I had one running on my BBS, a bulletin board system around that time. And the bot, Eliza, would chat with users when I, the sysop, a system operator, was not available. No reasoning, no solutions, no intelligence at all. Eliza would kind of flip whatever you said into a question. It would say, I'm sad. Why are you sad? You would say something, and then it would flip it into a question again. And people loved it. Maybe because it did exactly one thing. It witnessed. It witnessed without trying to fix anything. Now, modern Gen AI tries to help. It helps through reasoning. It reasons through unreasonable moments, but sometimes the best reasoning is no reasoning. And look, I'm not trying to warn you away from Gen AI. You know me already. I don't try to suggest that this system should be banned from sensitive situations. Not at all. Some people genuinely prefer talking to a machine. No judgment, no pity face, no awkwardness. And in fact, a few months ago, I was on a radio show and I mentioned that Dave Hughes, a fantastic comedian and a presenter here in Australia, he shared a very, very powerful post in which he sort of animated his long lost brother. He showed how he uses Gen AI to cope with grief. And I said then, and I stand by it now, that Gen AI can genuinely help some of us in such situations. Some of us. Because not everyone is the same. And I'm sharing my story because I walked away from that conversation and understood something. I need to recognize the moment for what it was, unreasonable. And so after a few weeks away, I think I'm ready to come back here. Thanks for waiting. That's the post. And I think it's a good closing. I don't think like I need to add anything more. I usually try to say a few words, give a bit of a context, share what others wrote. Perhaps I would like to thank so many of you who reached out with your warm words, because it's genuinely not an easy time that I'm going through. But I'm really looking forward to writing next posts and getting back to the weekly frequency of those. Thanks for waiting and stay curious.